feel like I have roadies. For those of you who don't know, those are the people who actually make a band happen.
Right.
You know, the musicians take all the credit, but without the roadies, you wouldn't have the band. What a glorious day this is.
Yes.
Looking at the sky on the way in this morning, I was reminded about how I see that sky new every day. And that may sound a little silly because I've been looking at that sky for 10 years, but I see it new every day. There's something special about it every day. And so I was reminded of that when we did the pre-service meditation this morning in terms of ourselves. Because, you know, we may be wearing something this morning that we've worn before. We may have driven the same car that we drove yesterday. We may be hanging out with friends that we've known for a long time later. But we aren't the same. We aren't the same. I'm going to use for a second Carol and her sister Linda. Now they've grown up together, which I don't think that I can say about anybody else in this room, except that Denise and I have almost been together long enough to have grown up together. They've grown up together. They've known each other really their whole lives. But they aren't the same. They aren't the same. So what are we talking about today? Are we talking about difference? No. Are we talking about, Anita mentioned something about love. Are we talking about love today?
Always.
And that's without any prompting. We're always talking about love, that's right. And my theme for February, in case you've already forgotten it since last week, is falling in love. But it's really falling in love with ourselves and falling in love with life. As the person we are.
Today.
Now.
As the person we are.
Today.
Or now. Anyone works. Because we have never been this person before.
Right.
We may think we have. We may not notice the changes in ourselves. We may not be aware of how we view things differently, or how we feel about things more deeply, or how we can look outside and see the beauty as if we're seeing it for the very first time. But that happens. That happens if we're paying attention. Last week we talked about stopping doing. And I wasn't talking about don't do anything, because that would be silly, right? I'd be wasting my breath, for starters, to say stop doing. What I was talking about was doing as our motivation, doing as our habit, doing without thinking, doing without being aware, doing without being present. And today I'm talking about the idea that we might want to start being and put more attention on being than doing. The doing will still happen. I'm positive about that. Because I'll say most of us. I won't take the whole risk. I'll say most of us are habitual doers in some way. But we aren't all habitual beers. Because somewhere along the line we stopped being. We stopped putting our attention there. Now we've been all along, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We've been all along, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's better. The Torah is back there, you know. And all that sacred stuff. We got so involved in doing that we may have lost sight of the importance of the awareness of being. The difference that it makes when we bring our conscious attention to how we be. When we bring our focus to what we bring as us to anywhere, anytime, under any circumstance. We put, well, none of us here, but some people we know, all of us know, people who put so much attention on how anybody else is being and their idea about how anybody else is being and whether or not they approve of how anybody else is being, which actually has nothing to do with being.
Right.
If you stop and think about it, it has behavior has nothing to do with being. Behavior is a choice.
Yes.
Behavior is a choice. I'm talking about being the best vision and version of ourselves that we can at any given moment. Now, what do I mean by vision and version? That sounds a little, I don't know, woo-woo. What do I mean by vision and version? It's our vision, right? So who actually informs the vision that we hold of ourselves at every given moment?
We do.
We do. We do. Who actually informs the version of ourselves that we're being at any given moment?
We do.
We do. Boy, that's a big responsibility.
It is.
But how many of us think about it in those terms? Think about, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about this very thing the other day. Thinking about the quality of ourselves that we bring to anything. Now, I happen to know that Patty Berry has probably spent, well, I'm not even going to try to count, uncountable hours sewing things for people. Uncountable, right? Oh, and that was after a career in theater, and that was after being a hairdresser, and that was after,
Being a mother
oh, and being a mother,
and a wife.
and, but this is something she still does, and of course she's still a mother. When we do something habitually, when we've been doing it for a long time, and it may even be just the quality of conversation that we're having with a person, how much attention are we really paying? How present are we? How well are we listening? Is what the other person is saying, is that more important than what we are waiting to say?
Yes.
But we don't necessarily think about that, do we, Stephen?
No.
We don't necessarily think about that. We don't necessarily think that when we're having a conversation with someone else, particularly if that conversation tweaks a reaction in us or a response in us, well, we learned a long time ago how to anxiously wait until we got to say what we had on our mind. Which may or may not be relevant to what the other person said.
Yeah.
That's not being. That is a form of anticipation that doesn't necessarily serve us. Because if we're truly listening, if we're truly engaged in listening, we're open.
Yeah.
We aren't planning our response. We're open. Now, does that mean that we can't say to our friend, oh, that reminded me of something else? No, of course we can. But to fully listen means to be open and willing to take in what the other person is saying without reaction. It's not so easy.
No, it isn't.
It's not so easy. It requires practice. And it's one of the most valuable gifts we can give each other, is truly our undivided attention. You know, if Patty didn't give full attention to her sewing, I can't even imagine. Because I used to do a lot of sewing, not her level, but, you know, not bad. And I'll tell you, I would have run over my fingers with the needle because I would have been getting in the way, or I would have cut myself with the big scissors I was using or whatever. Paying attention isn't just about watching, although watching counts.
It's important.
Don't stop watching. Paying attention is a full body experience. At least it is for me. When I am listening to someone else. Now, I didn't come out of the chute this way. I learned it. And I practiced it. And I continue to practice. So I'm not talking about something where it's like a light switch and we can just switch it on. In fact, for me, I can't switch it off. Nor do I care to. Because it is so rewarding for me to actually be honored by whatever someone else is sharing with me. And to give them in return the gift of my being. Just being with them. And listening. And taking it in completely. I'm convinced that if everyone at least spent a little bit of time developing their listening in an open-hearted way, there would be no war.
That's right.
Because as we've heard again and again and again by many truth tellers, we all want the same thing. We all want freedom. We all want safety. We all want security. We all want ease. We all want comfort. We all want health. We all want the same thing. And how we get from here to there is not somebody else's job. It's our job to bring it to each other, to offer it, to offer this golden gift of attention to each other. But we don't have the golden gift to give if we're busy doing. Or if we're busy thinking up what we want to say when the other person shuts up. Not kidding. It's inconceivable to me how in the world we think we're going to understand each other if we're not really listening.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If we're not really present. Someone I knew a long time ago had this answer for everything. I just don't understand. Well, it was no surprise that they didn't understand because they didn't pay attention. They didn't pay attention enough to understand. They weren't willing to give enough of themselves to just be present to understand. So how in the world could they understand? When we busy ourselves with unproductive chatter, anybody? When we busy ourselves with non-productive chatter, I think that's more correct. What is really happening is avoidance. we're avoiding fully participating in this exchange that is an opportunity that's right before us. Am I saying don't have opinions and don't share them? No. Good luck with that. Of course we have opinions, and of course we're going to share them. What I am saying is wait. Wait. Think about not making your opinion and whatever in the world it is that you think is so important for you to say, the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because if we're going to show up as the best vision and version of ourselves, listening is a key component to that. You know, when we're so busy constructing up here a retort, or sitting there thinking about how somebody else is full of, whatever people are full of, we're not listening. We're not listening.
Right.
And if we're not listening, how in the world can we fall in love? I'm not talking about romantic love. I'm talking about regard. I'm talking about appreciation. I'm talking about being in such joy in someone's presence that you already, even though you're in their presence right this moment, you can hardly wait for the next time. The other thing that's happening, when we're willing to do this, when we're willing to bring our entire self to an engagement with another person, the other thing that's happening is that everybody is enriched.
Mm-hmm.
Not just in my example, not just the two people that are involved, and it could be a lot more. Not just the two people who are involved, but everybody, as a teacher that I did a lot of work with would say, in the arena of their experience. Because it's energetic.
Mm-hmm.
When we bring that quality of self to an exchange, it's energetic. It benefits everybody. And you'll be in a full restaurant and there'll be people sitting around going, what's going on? I feel like something's going on. They won't even necessarily say it out loud, but they'll feel it. Because love is happening.
Yep.
Peace is happening right in their presence. Right in their presence. And it shifts stuff. Like tectonic plates. You know, the things that shift and lead to earthquakes. Although many of you, although I've been told unequivocally that earthquakes happen here in New Mexico, I was corrected about that by people who know, because I was a smart aleck Californian and I was saying, earthquakes don't happen here. I was told otherwise. When those plates shift, everything shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we feel it or not, everything shifts. And so the blessing that we bring, the good that we give, the generosity and peace and loving presence that we are cannot help but positively impact everybody else that is within breathing distance of us. And it's not because I walk up to you and I poke you and I go, you know, come on, get with it. It's not about doing. It's about being. The consciousness and the quality of presence that we bring to each other. The rest is not up to us. It's like when a pebble falls in a still lake. The pebble caused the first ripple. The other ripples cause each other. And that is so beautiful to watch. Can you see that? Still lake. One pebble. And the others are a response to that one pebble. Let's be that.